What and when really is midlife? When does that really happen? Is it a particular age or is it this feeling or what is that? I think you've got five classic ways that midlife men kind of fall into, like whether it's called a trap or I think you put it as falling asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, I start the book with my wife at the time, who was pregnant, telling me to let this go. And what she was talking about was my obsession to launch a paraglider off Lookout Mountain in Colorado, because I used to live at the base of that mountain before I met her.
Mhm.
And I made a bunch of wrong decisions there. And the her telling me to basically let it go was my opening into my misalignment of 20 years, which is shut all this down and become an adult and a career guy and all these things, which is fine. I'm not against that. But my story really speaks to that was the last piece of me as a man that I hadn't negotiated away already. And
Mhm.
her asking me to stop training for that goal of mine, uh, and I people pleased into it and said, okay. And then, there was a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about that happened 2008 financial crash. But the bottom line is I almost died in 2014 from a mountain bike crash. And that woke me up to say, what about my life brings me back to my values? And I went back to learning to paraglide. And I just happened to meet, out of total happenstance, like it was Hollywood scripted, a guy teaching a class that was a OG paraglide instructor, and he said, "Why don't you try again?" And that took a year or two until I finally took him up on it. Once I did, I was back where I picked up life exactly where I stopped in '97. It took 2 years, but I learned. I launched that damn mountain, and that started a whole steamroll of other ways of realigning my life: relationship, athleticism, um, who am I and what do I want to be in this world before it's too late, you
Yeah.
know? So the Lookout launch, picking it back up in 2019 and then launching in 2021, that was the realignment part. The wake up part was the pulmonary embolism. The alignment part for starting my life anew was launching that mountain, which led to all these other great things that have happened since.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, the pulmonary embolism, is that what kind of made you think, am I in the midlife? Is this a midlife crisis? I want to establish what was that midlife crisis or midlife thing to you because over the years we've heard, oh, 50 is the new 20, 60 is the new 40s and things like
Right.
that. So it's just like, where's that alignment
Yeah.
of my midlife
Mhm.
crisis? And
Yeah.
so that embolism, was that kind of the start of it for you to think, have I done what I want to do in life? Where am I? Am I in a midlife crisis?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of questions out there, exactly what you're saying. Like, when does midlife start, right? And,
Mhm.
the guy who coined that term back in the 60s, a social scientist, et cetera. But in for me, I think there's a moment, I call it, in a man's life where he falls asleep and he becomes this kind of man zombie. And it's a tough moment because we are made to be providers and we're made to serve and we're built that way. But inside of the paradigm of giving and career and kids and marriage, at least in my case, and I've talked to a lot of other men this way, there's a moment where at least I started over serving, over providing. I kind of was that superhero for everyone else, and I let my dream go, and I fell asleep in a zombie type state of just, I'm the provider, I must move forward. And so when you ask me if what year that was, I can't tell you when I actually kind of left the dream behind and just became this servant zombie. But I will tell you the wake up moment was the pulmonary embolism, because I almost didn't come back from that. And that's what went at 44 was when that happened in 2014. That's when I said, all right, what am I doing, man?
Yeah.
Uh, I almost didn't come out of that hospital, so uh, I need to get my stuff together.
So it really
Realignment.
sounds like that this midlife ish kind of thing can really start in your 30s. It could start in your 40s or 50s. It's that sudden realization of I'm serving others more than I'm living myself or something.
Right. And what I hear you say is the word midlife, and you're kind of, everyone thinks about it as a certain year. Is it 35? Is it 38? Is it
Yeah.
42? I'd like to kind of dispel that and think of at what is there a time, no matter how old you are, where you've lost enough of your own identity that you don't even realize it anymore, and you're going down a rabbit hole, or you're going blindly into the next few 10 years, and you've you don't have a true north as a man anymore. So instead of saying what year is it, I'd rather say, let's look back at the moment of the loss, or the moment of when you started becoming someone else, should we say, in
Mm.
a way. And that someone else looks great. The insidious part of it is it looks so great on the outside from everyone. Oh, he's a dad. He's successful real estate agent. He's this and that. But it's that hollowness inside where guys will never talk about it, to where it's the time of the misalignment. The moment of misalignment is what I'm trying to identify in the book, instead of
Gotcha.
necessarily midlife. Because you can get misaligned at 28. That's what I did. But I didn't wake up till I was 44. So society can say midlife starts here. I'm more about, hey, are you vibrant and still yourself at 38, 42, whatever? Let's examine it from the 10,000 foot view, and kind of revisit our true north, no matter what age we are, you know?
And yeah, and I can see where men get caught up or trapped in that provider. I have to be a provider. I have to do this. And I'm not saying that we don't and we shouldn't be, but we shouldn't lose ourselves and live, like you're kind of saying, live the life of someone else for someone else. We also
Yes.
have to live our lives as well.
You have to reserve time for yourself, man. And for me, I had to examine this all the way back to the way I grew up. I grew up Catholic. There was a lot of unworthiness, original sin, the whole thing of growing up in that parochial type of environment of, you know, and we already have this kind of as humans anyway. There's an unworthiness in all of us, isn't there? We're not good enough, or we compare ourselves to others. But I think growing up with kind of the church fire and brimstone on top of that, especially from the Catholic angle, I mean, I basically felt that unworthiness from early on. And the reason that I made the choices that I did at 27 and 28 were of my own doing. I take 1,000% responsibility in the book of all my choices, but I also go back and say I made those choices because I didn't have the wisdom that I have now at midlife, that I'm looking back, and that I didn't make those choices for me, man. I made them to make sure that my parents didn't think I was a bad person, or that I had a kid out of wedlock, or that I was a sinner in some way. And I kind of became this domestic soldier that in the book I call it strapping in anyway, where I'm going to be with this person even though we shouldn't. All signs have said we should not be together. But I'm going to do it anyway because of what I've been taught. And that'll make God happy and my parents happy and society happy. And so I strapped in for a 20-year ride on the misalignment kind of merry-go-round, where I was misaligned from the beginning. And then on the career side, same with the writing, man. I got out of college and wanted to be an adventure writer for Outside Magazine. That was my dream. I was a competitive runner at CU Boulder. I was a writer and a runner, and I wanted to do that. And these rabbit holes that I went down because of, you know, the template of mores and morals that was inside me, you know, people pleasing in a way, sent me down against the grain of my own values. I got misaligned, right? And then I shoved a sock in it for 20 years, and I'm like, this is just how it's going to be. I have to, you know, I don't know. The best way to describe it is I handed the keys to the bus to my ex-wife, and I let her drive it. And I was just a passenger. And I was a passenger out of guilt, meaning I have to do this. I'm a military tour of duty now. And that went on to some great things. I mean, I have 3 boys and I love them and it's all great, but so much tumultuous existence, the 2008 financial crash, et cetera, and 2 people that got together out of obligation more so than, and momentum more so than love, let's say. Yeah, and that all would have just kept going, man. Quiet misalignment. Most men live lives of quiet desperation. That's Henry David Thoreau, right?
Well, you know, this life misalignment that you're talking about for, we'll say, we're talking about for men right now.
Right.
It's, I had this thought in my head of how it was, but I'll say that the guys, the men that I know, the ones that are most successful, monetarily and physically happiness, are the guys that didn't, I'm going to call it a trap, the trap of doing what others thought that they should do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that they bucked the system and said, wait a minute, this is my life. I'm going to do what I want to do. And right now, in their 50s and 60s, they are the most successful monetarily and in that happiness of life. They are now living the golden years, I guess is how I'm going to put
Because
it.
they're in alignment, aren't they?
They are in alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never strayed. So with you, it took a pulmonary embolism to say, hey, Dixon, wake up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to take that, right? It doesn't have to be something traumatic and dramatic. So
No.
how do we wake up to this? How do guys wake up to this?
No, man, that is literally the mission. There's only 3, guys are simple. There's 3 things you got to do. Number 1 is you got to wake up, and it shouldn't take a near-death experience. Yeah. And that is the job of the book, to kind of open this thing up to the thing that guys will never talk about. Like, can we please talk about this now? It's not 1950 anymore. We can talk about our feelings. We can talk about where our life is headed. Are we happy? Are we the men that we wanted to be when we were 20? And when we had that young fire, our prime years, right? In some ways, that's when we have the most fire as a man. And then we all, yes, it's healthy to settle down and do all these things. And if you do it, a lot of guys do it just the right way, right? They get A's, they have the right partner early on, and they choose the career, whether it was the career they wanted or not. They become successful on the outside. And maybe in the book, I say there's a whole bunch of ways guys arrive at midlife misaligned. It doesn't have to be my route of people pleasing. It could be, I got straight A's, I got a great wife, I got a family, I got a cool car, and I got money in the bank. Why do I go to sleep at night wondering, is this all there is? So it's back to that question of, am I the man I wanted to be? And what did I always want for my life? Now's a real good time to start talking about it, because clock is ticking, Chuck.
Yeah. And it doesn't stop. The clock never stops. So, Dixon, could it be as simple as, well, I'm just going to use your situation as an example with paragliding, and not to say that is the only thing, but
another way not to do it. Yes, but yeah.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is I don't want people to think, oh, you have to completely change your life and do everything different. It could be a matter of one big dream that you had that, maybe it was the wife or the girlfriend or whatever it was that said, no, why don't you grow up? And you're like, all right. So it could just be that one thing. It could be that paragliding, or it could be riding a motorcycle across the Sahara or whatever it might be, right? It doesn't have to be this complete, oh, I'm changing my life and I'm
Nope.
leaving my wife.
No, that's impossible. That's impossible to
Yeah.
be like, I'm going to change all the facets. But I will tell you that the stereotype of men in midlife crisis, at least the ones that have a crisis that the world sees, is usually comes out sideways as a juvenile money spend, gambling addiction, running away with my secretary, or some other destructive crisis, right? What I'm talking about, and actually, by the way, bravo to the guys who are actually having a crisis. I want midlife men to have a crisis. I want them to have a guided crisis instead of a
Hmm.
juvenile, I'm getting a new haircut, buying a Harley, and I'm going to go to, Vietnam because I wanted to. I really want men to just look at, am I awake, number one, and then the realignment part comes in short burst, right? You start with, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If we start with the thing that's the biggest thing out of misalignment in your life, for some guys, maybe it's their relationship with their partner. Maybe there's an impending divorce. Maybe that guy has an alcohol problem. Maybe he's 85 pounds overweight. That would be, the glaring misalignments are usually like right there. We'll start with those. In my case, it was just the true north started with the launch, and then came the oh man, I need to get back to the athleticism I used to have, and I started training for the Leadville 100, and I worked on my body for 2 years to get that. And then I was in a dating mode because I had a divorce that was just catastrophic and terrible. But I learned, I worked on myself and did enough therapy to where I was like open and able to now receive a relationship that was worthy of the work that I did.
Hmm.
And now in alignment, I ended up marrying the love of my life last September. Her name is Mina. And it opened up a world to me in relationships I didn't even know was possible. And I go back to, I got kind of one thing set and these other things started getting aligned. So if a guy needs to lose weight first, great. We'll talk about that. But then what's next? It's not, your body's got to be in shape if you want to have longevity and a vibrant second chapter. But what else is there? Oh, I'm retiring, or I hate my job, but I got to stay there for 8 more years. Okay, let's talk about that's your second big piece of misalignment. So we eat the elephant in chunks, right? We can't do it all at
Yeah.
once.
I like how you're talking about alignment, and then you mentioned like the Harley, or maybe some guys would be a Corvette or something. Those to me are the misalignment, because we're still in a trap of doing what others think that's what solves that midlife, or if we still want to call it midlife. It's like, oh yeah, the midlife thing, guys. You got to get that Harley, or you got to get the convertible. Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Got to
But
go
that's
get a
not
30-year-old instead of your wife. I mean, there's a lot there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and that's not that may not be my alignment. Somebody else, that hardly might be their alignment, but we all probably have different alignments.
right. And I call that reactive versus,
Mm,
being proactive. So those are mostly those are juvenile kind of reactive ways to having a crisis. And like I
mhm.
said, good for those guys for actually realizing something is wrong. The other part I'm worried about is all the quiet guys with the sock in their mouth like I was, not even knowing they're awake. They're still a zombie. At least the guys buying the Harleys and freaking out, they're at least awake, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And they happen to be trying to settle their problem in a stereotypical way that's reactive, whatever it be, drinking or gambling or whatever it is, eating excessively, whatever. You can you can pick your poison, but my point is, instead of that traditional reactive thing, why don't we wake up and start looking at, reclaiming that fire from when we used to, we're in college and high school in the locker room. We're just like, man, I want to go out and get life. I'm going to do this and this and this. And that fire's not around anymore, man. We let the world kind of just steamroll us a little bit, and it's time to take, what do we call that? Take note. I'm missing the word, but uh,
I I
you know
get
what I'm
it.
saying?
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm literally just, if you break it up and boil it all down, I mean, my whole story is I gave up a lot of stuff when I had that fire back then, and I went to sleep for 20 years. And now that I'm awake, I've actually, and it doesn't always work this way in midlife. I'm not telling every guy to be like, what is your dream from 40 years ago? It could be, what is your dream now based on what
mm,
wisdom you have learned? In my case, though, it was simply picking up where I left off with writing, with athleticism, with finding my true love, all this stuff that I had literally just kind of stopped and gone down these rabbit holes. I'm now feeling like I'm a college graduate at 21. I just happen to be pushing 56. And so that's not going to be for every guy, but the idea is the same. Like, what is there for us now where we can bring the fire back to this time and, you know, kind of start clean with, where's the vibrancy, man? I mean,
yeah.
a lot of guys I look around, they're sitting in a recliner watching the Sunday game, maybe got a pot belly, and maybe looking around going, oh, this is about as good as it gets. And I say that's not the way to go.
Yeah. I'm glad you're talking about this because I wanted to ask you for the guys that don't know where to pick up. They realize, okay, I'm misaligned. They realize I've been doing crap for everybody else. I need to do something for me. But then they're going, what do I do? And I think some guys may start making things up saying, well, I wanted that 30 years ago, but I don't think I can. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they put some doubt into their heads. So how do they get around that if you can help them out? Point
Yeah.
us in the right direction, Dixon.
Yeah, you're basically saying like, where do I start? Like, I know I need to
Yeah.
change, or maybe I am waking up a little bit. Where do I change? Um,
Yeah.
I would number one go back to, first of all, what is the biggest misalignment in my life right now? And it's pretty easy to figure out for most guys. It's, man, I'm really miserable in my relationship. Okay, then that would be where you would start trying to get back on track, and then start with the second thing, which is, okay, my body needs some help, I'm a little overweight or something like that. But in
Hmm.
terms of the dream piece, like, what do I want? That's the part of moving forward. So waking up is one thing, realigning with your values, what do I want and where do I want to go, is all part of how a guy could say, well, I've always wanted to start my own business because I've been in the corporate world for so long, and I've shoved that down for 20 years, and I really want to actually go for what I call the big hairy goal, throwing down the gauntlet. Nothing is off the table, man. It just because you came from whatever background doesn't mean you can't be like, you know what? I always wanted to start my own hunting business, or whatever it is. It is possible now. And I would tell guys to actually reset from zombie world to go, man, why can't I look up and shoot for the moon and land in the stars
Yeah.
like I wanted to when I was 21? Because I don't look at the world that way anymore. I want guys to go back to that juice, when they're like ready to attack the world when they get their college graduation or their high school graduation or whatever. We're hot to trot, buddy. And and everyone's been sedated for a long time in many cases. And if you're not going to wake up, you're not going to be able to get that fire back and go, wow, yeah, what is my pie in the sky dream now? Because if I get fit and get in alignment with the other pieces of my life, that big hairy goal is possible. For me, it was speaking and writing. I swore that I would write a book. I was a journalism major, man, and I shoved that down. And now, after these series of alignments, relationship, body, big hairy goals, I'm like, I'm going to do this, which is why you and I are talking right now. I am launching the chapter of my life that I have shoved down for years. I look back and it's kind of funny because I have an eclectic background of careers because I didn't choose writing. Instead of a writer, I became a professional blackjack dealer, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And then I became a professional wedding DJ in Denver. I was one of the top wedding guys in Denver, and I loved entertaining and on stage. And then I started looking back at all these careers and how they kind of built up to now, because I actually spoke at my high school graduation. I had forgotten. I was one of the speakers at my high school graduation. So I'm like, that and that and that. And then I became a realtor and I did a lot of YouTube stuff. I'm a big outdoor guy in Colorado. So I'm a mountain biker and a paraglider and a snowboard instructor and all this stuff. But the video part was very creative to me. And now I'm like, oh, I see what's happened. My career, my rabbit hole stuff that I was kind of like unworthy about, like I felt like, man, I didn't do life right. Like my buddies all went into corporate world and now they have 20 years experience in one thing. My buddy's a geologist. He's doing great, but I didn't do that. I did all these other things and I always felt like I did it wrong. Nah. Now that I'm realigned, all those skills and kind of character traits that I got along the way in my journey are coming together. And that's the reason I'm writing this book and talking to you, man. I want to get out there and spread the message, but I'm also kind of living what I'm writing about. It's a rebirth for me after being asleep for so long. So Rip Van Winkle or something like that. But does that make sense? I mean, that's why I'm so fired up, because I feel like I've been sleeping for a long time.
I get it. And Dixon, you're awake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, you did a lot of these little things, and some guys may have gone out there and found one path, and that's all they've done. That's all they've experienced. But you have experienced a lot of different things, and a lot of guys out there have experienced a lot of things, which today it amounts to a lot for us. If we find that alignment and go, that skill, that's what I did when I was, 27.
Yeah.
I can use that today. I remember going there when I was 32. I'm going to use that skill of the memories. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a book out called Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, which just talks about that too, which is like all the stuff you learned in, I think what he calls fluid knowledge in your younger years, you can now use in your rebirth here. Your realignment is what I'm talking about as what he calls crystallized intelligence, which is more so like all the old guys, instead of doing, can now teach, right? We can teach the generation before us what we learned. And in my case, what I learned is what I said earlier. It's not 1950 anymore. We don't have to fumble in the dark about our feelings. We don't have to stick a sock in it and have our cortisol levels come up and live in some way where guys can't talk about, hey, this isn't working for me, or I'm unhappy, or, I'm depressed. There's suicides and all kinds of stuff out there because it goes unchecked, right? And I don't want to go down that road, but being misaligned is one way to go down a path that can get a lot darker.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing I want to throw in here into this conversation, and it may sound that's completely off, but AI, the fear of AI, it's going to take over everything. But what you're talking about, your lived and learned experiences. AI
No.
cannot replicate that to teach somebody else. It's guys like you who have lived it, who have learned it, and now you're sharing it. So this, I think, is really important what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, AI doesn't know how to make the mistake of picking the wrong career and picking the wrong partner, or going down these things that only humans can experience, and that means only humans can tell the story of it, right?
Right. Exactly. I mean, and that's why I say with guys like you who are sharing those experiences, we can all learn from them. Granted, we're still going to make mistakes, and that's
Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Dix,
I mean, God, I'm no guru, man, and I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying I'm a peer who kind of went into the trenches, and I've come back to with a message. Like my message is like, don't do what I did. Like, what if you just, you know, avoided this lesson? You know, so
yeah. Can you give us again the working title of your
yeah.
upcoming book?
It's Before It's Too Late, which I think is apt. And the subtitle is The Midlife Wake Up Call Every Man Needs. And so I'm really kind of the Paul Revere, man. I'm like, hey, the recliner is coming. The recliner is coming, like, hey, let's let's go the
Get
opposite
up out of our seats. Come on.
way. Yeah.
uh, I I love this conversation because we don't really
Oh,
hear it from men. We don't hear it for guys.
right.
And like you said, guys will just be kind of quiet. We have fewer words and we just sit back and we let it go. And as time passes, we just we
Right.
just shut it down and we shut ourselves down and we just live that straightforward path of existence, which is almost like non-existence.
Zombie world.
Zombie world, exactly. That's
Yeah, man.
exactly what you're saying.
Man zombies.
Men
There's a lot of
zombie
man
awake.
zombies out there.
Yep, that's right. And I love how you say it, man zombie awake, and it is
Hey,
time.
Chuck, you know how I figured out how to wake up as a man zombie? I had to run off a cliff to do it with a paraglider attached. I'm like, oh, I'm alive now. I am awake.
Dixon says, go out there and do it. Wake up, get out of the recliner. It's okay to press stop on the football game. Just go outside, just live. I'm going to say find your purpose, get aligned. We're not saying leave your girlfriend or your wife.
No, but start looking at yourself. And I got a really
Yeah.
easy mantra that I tell guys. I'm like, go outside, period. The rest will
Yeah.
follow. So like go ride your bike with your best friend and stay out past 6 p.m. until your mom wonders where you are, man. Like go discover outside and fellowship with another man out there, just friendship and outside explorations. If everyone
Yeah.
remembers that mean there's a lot to be said about that at midlife. We don't have friends, we don't talk to anyone, we stay in our houses. I mean, a lot to say about outside.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Dixon, I want to say thank you very much for being on the show today. And I know this is going to be 110% helpful for a lot of guys, a lot of men out there. So
Man, I,
thanks.
I invite everyone to follow the journey as we move along here. I'm going to have a group on Substack where I'm going to release the written version of Wings of My Youth about that actual day. There's a whole essay about it. And so that's kind of be the preamble to launching the book in the fall and kind of announcing myself to the world as, hey, man, I got a mission and I want to chat with guys about it. So let's have a beer and chat about it instead of stay quiet.
It's exactly what I'm doing tonight after we're done here.
Cool, buddy. Well, it was a
Hey,
pleasure.
thanks again. Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Will do.
Cheers.